All right, so we're trying something new today. Let's see how this works out. Okay, so I was watching the coverage last night, and I've been debating on doing this sort of style content for a little while anyway, just as an excuse to be able to watch more disc golf, which I didn't really need before now. But now that my girlfriend's home, it's something I need, an excuse to be able to sit down and watch without having to do anything else. So here we are. That being said, Big Easy Open was last weekend, and it was crazy, controversial. I got myself some notes so I can try to avoid forgetting anything. I'm gonna forget something, but let's dive straight into this. Full transparency, I didn't get to watch round one. Like I said, mild interruptions and whatnot. Wasn't able to sit down. I was able to watch part of round two, and I watched all of round three. So we'll go into the big notes. Gannon versus Ricky showdown. This was a great battle. I'll get into some more specifics on it later. But we'll go ahead and break down some of the lead up to it, which, as per usual lately, it's been Gannon with no heater rounds, and Ricky actually had a crazy round in round two, which surprisingly was only like a 1076 rated round or something like that, which, let's be honest, that's an 1100 rated round in our hearts. Nobody expected double digits going into this, and for him to be able to do that was just kind of nuts, and really nobody else all weekend came that close to hitting that number. So it was a bit wild, and it surprised me when I checked back today and it wasn't 1100 rated. Like, it just goes to tell me that the rating system is still broken, and take it with a grain of salt for whatever you do, because a course of that difficulty, for him to shoot a 10 down, like, give that man his flowers. That was a great round. So getting into round three, we're basically going to dive straight into the closing stretch, the last couple holes, which we'll start with hole 17, mostly because I didn't think about doing this until later in the round. So I don't have a lot of notes prior to then. And I guess I could watch the round back. Well, I should watch it back for a little bit of like fine detail tuning. But yeah. Also, my kids are going to be around the house, so they're going to be interrupting as per usual. That being said, hole 17 started off pretty standard, I suppose. Had a couple clutch putts. Massive putt by Gannon from, they have it listed as 88 feet. I wouldn't be surprised if it was further than that. That putt was crazy. It looked good the entire way. And then I think that put a lot more pressure on Ricky's, like, C1, edge of C1 is about 30 feet to have it listed as putt for his par. And in order for him to basically keep that one stroke lead going into hole 18. So that putt was massive for Gannon. Huge clutch moment, especially after a little bit of controversy that they had earlier on in the round, and to come straight off of that, basically be able to bang that putt home. It's crazy. So that takes us into hole 18 with Ricky with the one-shot lead. They both sort of struggled off the tee, ending up in very similar locations. Gannon's being a bit more obstructed with some of the cypress trees that basically ended up inside of him, which, on an off note, me as like an average player watching that back, like, I could just imagine my disc ending up in one of those trees and never finding it. So that's fun. Gannon had a nice pitch out. Pitch out wasn't really a pitch out. He got some forward progress on it, but I think after taking a look at Ricky's lie, he felt that he was able to play it a little bit safer and get himself to a way better spot on the fairway, and it worked out. He got himself a nice line, not an easy line, but a nice line moving into his third shot. Ricky, off of his tee shot, tried to be a little bit more aggressive and kind of paid the price. He clipped that tree and got a nasty kick to the left side off in the rough over there, making it pretty difficult for him to get up and down. I watched it back, and he got a bogey, so 5 shots. And I don't know if that second shot went OB or what, but I still only counted 4 shots the second time I watched it back. I still only remember 4 shots. I need you to stop being annoying. I still only remember 4 shots, so I don't know what I missed there. My bad. But nonetheless, that tree kick killed him for that. And then Gannon steps up, throws a massive over-the-top shot, sky hyzer, fades back in, falls 17 feet from the basket, and at that point, all of the pressure is on Ricky. Gannon basically has the tap out for par and guaranteed playoff, if not the victory, if Ricky is not able to convert. He knew it was good. As soon as it left his hand, you could hear it on the broadcast. He was just like, yeah, but he knew it was good. And it looked good, all things considered, especially from like kind of knowing the course a little bit blind, even after watching all 3 rounds. Or I got some post coverage from Jomez for round 1 and just keeping up with a little bit of it. Like, they ended up in so many different circumstances and different shots and situations that no hole ever really played the same. So it was kind of difficult to keep track of without actually playing the course yourself. And even then, I feel like the majority of players ended up with shots that they hadn't seen in their practice rounds and whatnot. So I could be wrong, but it seemed that way. After Gannon had that shot, Ricky came up and had a really good up shot. It came up a little short, just short of that cypress tree, basically opening up into the green. They have it listed as 55 feet, and it was all the pressure on Ricky at that point. Like, he needed to convert, and he did. He stepped up, zero hesitation, lined his shot up, let it go, and just like Gannon's, it was good the whole way. It was never a doubt from the time it left his hand, at least not from my perspective, and it was just cash. Straight into the chains. Massive moment. He was so hyped, you could see it. Like, he knew it the moment, and he stood up and he raised to the occasion. So kudos to Ricky on knocking that down. That's crazy. And then Gannon steps up, knocks down his par putt, forced the playoff. There was never really a doubt. Nobody thought he was going to miss that. It was like 17, 18 footer or whatever it was. Like, that's a tap out for him. It's a tap out for most of them. Aside from the couple that Ricky did miss, which turned around to kind of bite him in the butt a little bit later. So that takes us into the playoff, which, small complaint on my end, on the live coverage, it took so long to get to the playoff. I was getting so impatient. Like, my family was trying to watch something else, and I'm like, guys, it's almost over. It's in overtime. You know, you got to put it in terms they understand. And yeah, it just took a minute. So that was fun. So Ricky got the coin toss. He led off, had a pretty good shot, probably ended up a little bit further left than he probably wanted to, and it was a little bit more than ideal, but all things considered, he got off the tee pretty clean. So Gannon steps up, does the same thing, gave himself a little bit better line with his turning over a bit more and getting more to the right side. So I guess he had a better line for that center gap. I didn't see the center gap. That's what the broadcast said. We all know how the broadcast is, so maybe they're making me a liar. I don't know. So essentially, both players cleared the tee. No major danger for either one of them, and slight advantage Gannon based off of fairway placement there. So Ricky steps up. After a little bit of deliberation, they decide that his putt is slightly further, or his tee shot is slightly further than Gannon's. So he steps up first, which is kind of big here actually, and he throws a massive over-the-top hyzer that lands OB, comes up short of the green and ends up in the water by 3-4 feet, which turns in a little bit of controversy, but we'll get into more of that later. Spotter gave him a favorable spot though, but it wasn't an official spotter, so there was conversation to be had from the card and the officials once they actually got up there. Knowing that that was kind of how it played out and that they didn't have an official spot that was 100% concrete, Gannon was trying to get some information on the coverage. You could see him talking to the official, and they were never able to really get a clear answer. So Gannon took his next shot, not really knowing what was going on with Ricky. He opted to play it safe. He laid up short of the water. And then from there, he was still next up again. So he steps up. Looks like he gave it a bit of a soft bid. I don't know if Gannon ever truly gives soft bids on anything, so he might have been full running. Either way, it was a safe bid, and he ended up with like a 7-footer for an easy tap out for his par. Again, putting all of the pressure on Ricky. So they step up. They finally get a conclusion on where they decide that that spot is going to be. Ricky doesn't convert, and then he goes up, taps out for his bogey, and allows Gannon to tap out for the par and the victory. So Gannon starting off pretty strong this year so far. Ricky is as well. But we'll go ahead and dive into some of those controversies because there was a couple. For starters, Ricky moving the branches that were behind his lie. I watched the video coverage of that a couple times even after the event, and I tried very hard to see anything moving. Like I had my eyes locked in on his disc in the area behind it. And when he moved all of those branches, I never saw anything move. I didn't see any leaves pick up. I didn't see a branch move out from behind his disc. I didn't see his discs shift from the movement of the branches. It didn't look like any part of it was behind his lie from the video footage. But Ricky said there was, and I don't think there's any reason to have to call him a liar there. Just the video evidence doesn't seem to confirm his assessment of the situation. Which kind of leads us into, like, as the tour grows, is it fair to continue to rely on players to have to make those judgment calls when Isaac straight up said that he wasn't close enough to even see what happened? This fairway was like over 200 feet wide. And if you're on the opposite side of it, you're never going to see what's going on as you're getting ready to throw your next shot. Like, they're not all lining up watching each other throw. So it begs the question of, are they going to have to start to implement something and change some of the rules to better reflect the tour and some of the expansive courses that they're going to be playing on moving forward? There's also questions, do you think Gannon was wrong to bring it up in the first place? Personally, I don't. It was a questionable look. From his perspective watching it, kind of confirms what the video evidence showed. It did not look like he moved anything that was behind his lie. And I haven't looked specifically at the direct wording, but after hearing them talk about it on coverage and the commentary kind of relaying that direct verbiage, it didn't seem like he was in the right to move the debris that he did move. But I'm not an expert on the matter, don't claim to be, and I'm not one to call anybody out as a liar. But that being said, I don't think Gannon was wrong to question it. They want fair play. If something looks like it's a little bit sketchy, it makes sense to go with it. And Gannon literally said, he's like, if you said it's behind your lie, then it's behind your lie. And then he let it go. That being said, big kudos to Ricky for being able to bounce back from that moment of basically contention on whether or not he was telling the truth. And him, from the perspective of like the viewer, kind of looked like they were calling him a liar in a way, which, again, not necessarily the case, but it's very easy to see how he could take that situation in that way if that is indeed what happened. But he was able to step up, still play well, and kind of complete the rest of that hole and the rest of the round. Not as well as he would have wanted to, but nonetheless, yeah. And then there was the playoff putt spot on his OB shot, which was questionable at best. It seems like they got the right spot in the end, but the questionable part about it is how they got to that point. Like, how in a playoff on an 18-hole course on a professional level touring event do you not have more spotters in place to be able to accurately depict where that shot went out of bounds? What were all these spotters doing? They had spotters on most of the holes for some of these shots that needed them. Where were they in this point? So, like, that feels like a failing of the Pro Tour, maybe even the event coordinators. I'm not real sure who that falls on, but why were there no additional spotters there? Like, somebody, if you have more information, please leave a comment, let us know on that, because I'm not real sure. But I didn't like the fact that it didn't seem like they had anybody to cover down on what is arguably the most important portion of this entire event. That being said, the controversy aside, the event itself was really good, all things considered. It was a fantastic battle. Gannon played great down the stretch to continue to put that pressure on Ricky and basically make him have to perform and not give him an easy out. They both made a whole bunch of clutch shots. Even after being put in some bad situations, they were able to make the best of it, get out of it, and kind of convert in areas where they desperately needed to. That being said, I don't believe the reactions of either individual, whether it be Gannon's frustration with some of the stuff that was going on with Ricky, or Ricky's frustration with some of the stuff that was going on with Gannon and him kind of calling him out on things. I don't think those are indicative of either individual as an individual. I think stakes are high, emotions are high. both players really want to win. Like the competitive nature between the two of them is obviously very high, especially with Ricky. We know how he is in the round. He's not one of the people that talks and is friendly necessarily. He's there. He's focused. He's paying attention to his round. And given those personalities, it makes sense that there was a little bit of heated discussion here and there in those moments of confusion, trying to figure out what was going on. So for all those people kind of coming after Ricky, I don't really think that's fair. You put yourself in that moment. You've got money, legacy, all these things on the line. Like, it's not really fair to say that he did anything wrong or call Gannon out for doing anything wrong. They both did what they needed to do in those situations, and I think that's really about all it is. It was a heartbreaking loss for Ricky after all. Like, he kind of gave this one away with his play in the final round, but all things considered, he started out the season really well, and it's kind of shaken off some of that funk that was following him with not being able to finish earlier or towards the end of last year. I know he was dealing with the injury last year, so hopefully he's back and he's healthy, and that's what we're seeing now. Really great to see him starting the season well. It bodes well for the passing of the torch, so to say. Hopefully he's able to take this, though, and use this as fuel to continue to play better, not let it get to him. I know Ricky's mental game usually seems pretty strong. So that being said, this is a massive win for Gannon, especially when, like, historically his mental game has not been one of his strong points. It's been a bit of an Achilles heel of his. But he had those moments where he was kind of talking and chirping at himself, or it's like he was hating the ground. He wasn't happy with the lines that they have. And like there was a lot of things that he was not happy with, but then he would step up and he would make a great shot. So he was not letting that mental side actually affect his play, which was massive for him because, like I said, normally he has that issue. So it's great to see him doing that. And honestly, it's kind of scary to think that he's playing this well this early. And historically, he doesn't do that. He's usually a slow starter. So if he's able to get that mental side figured out and he's playing this well this early in the season, it could be a bit dangerous for the rest of the field. So hopefully Ricky and we can get some other players to continue to step up and challenge him. Otherwise, this could be a runaway season for Gannon. Towards the end of the year, last year and the year prior, Gannon had this feeling of like inevitability. Like he was going to come after the lead, whether he started slow or what. He was going to turn it around. He was going to play like the number one player in the world and was going to be in contention at the end. And that's what we saw today or this weekend. If that continues this early with his mental game being like that, like I said, it's gonna be dangerous. So on the FPO side, not gonna lie, I didn't get a chance to watch it. So FPO is a lot harder for me to be able to watch. It's earlier in the day and with the family and stuff. Like right now, girlfriend's home. She just got back from a deployment and we're spending time together. So I'm kind of sacrificing time here and there to be able to do what I need to do with trying to watch some of this stuff. And sorry to the FPO field. My favorite player is not in it right now. So Silva, come back, start scoring again soon, please. And congrats to Holland. She ran away with it. I think that's all she won by 8 strokes. She shot a 9 down. Pretty good for this course. And a lot of times when you have that big of a lead, it's easy to take your foot off the pedal and allow for a collapse of sorts. And she didn't let that happen. So congratulations to Holland. Great tournament, great victory. And then I saw Valerie Mandujano got second, which not really surprising. She usually plays pretty well on these wooded courses as far as I've been able to gather. Now, that being said, I just started watching last year, like last March. I'm not even a full year into my disc golf obsession. So if I'm wrong on any of these takes or if you guys got more history, share it with me. Call me out. I'm all about trying to learn all this stuff and keeping caught up. That being said, favorite players, Niklas and Silva, both did not play in this tournament, so that was a bit sad. Some other notable finishes. See, Isaac Robinson got the podium, finished third. A little bit of a slow final round, but he kept it together. Luke Taylor, strong finish for fourth. It was a great tournament for him. Joey Buckets as well, starting off the season really well. He didn't have that great of a year last year, but coming in fifth this early, especially on a course that's difficult, which kind of plays in his strengths as like a technical thrower. But nonetheless, we've got Goose coming in at 8th. Eagle finished at 18th. Which is kind of interesting. Course is difficult. I am curious to see if he's able to take some of that momentum. That being said, he shot a +3, but like this course isn't easy. So a +3 is not a bad round. Like I'll get into that a bit in a minute, but that's not too bad. And then you had Simon for a tie at 21st with Paul Kranz. I like Paul Kranz. He's also one of my favorite players. Thoroughly enjoy watching him play. So shout out to those two. Both are enjoyable. AB coming in just above Cash at 37th. And then a few notable people that finished just below Cash. We had Ezra Aderhold, Kyle Klein, and Paul Ulibarri. So back onto the course difficulty portion. And then we'll close out with a couple notes, and then we'll be on our way. So the talk of this course was that a 15 down would win this event. And the winning number was an 11 down. So it even played harder than people anticipated it playing. Like, for example, the top 50 finishers shot an average of 3.7 over par. That is crazy difficult in comparison. There were so many holes that averaged over par by a full stroke, like over par, and then some by a full stroke or more. And that's just kind of unheard of on the Pro Tour. So it's kind of crazy. All in all, I think it seemed to be a successful event. Had good fanfare turnout as far as I could tell. Most of the crowds and stuff were there. It could have just been the way they were filmed, but it definitely looked like they had good fan turnout. Hearing on the broadcast, they had a bunch of volunteers, like a record number of volunteers for a tour event to help set up the course and whatnot. Something they planted like something like 800 acres or 80 acres of grass in order to keep the wooded area grass, which I thought was awesome. I think it makes for a much more beautiful course versus just playing in the dirt. There were some differing opinions on whether or not the course was unfair and whether or not the lines were fair or just luck. But all things considered, most opinions that I saw did say that people thought the event had potential. It could be better in a couple years after a little bit of work to the course and whatnot. So that was definitely interesting. I really liked the difference in the play. The difficulty level really made it feel like every stroke mattered. There wasn't a hole that you could just take it easy on. Everyone was challenging in a different way. It forced you to be on your game the entire tournament. And honestly, that's probably why Gannon pulled it out. He is the most consistent player in the field right now. He plays the closest to his peak than anybody else at any given time. There are players that I think are better than Gannon. Like I stand in the field that I think every player at their best, I think Isaac Robinson is the best player in the world. If you're at an event and every person plays to their peak level, I think Isaac wins. So I just think Gannon does that more often. He's closer to his peak than any other player. He has much less variance, and because of that, he wins a lot of tournaments. But it made for a pressure-packed weekend, a lot of difficult play, and it goes to show how uncanny Ricky's round 2 was and how messed up it is that it is not officially one of the 1100 rated rounds, because I would argue to say that it is more impressive than a lot of the 1100 rated rounds that we have seen recently. So yeah, that's a travesty. But let me know your thoughts on the event. This is the first time that I filmed any sort of content like this. I've been debating on it for a little while and just kind of opted to get into it. So I feel like this might be a little long, but let me know, what can I do to make this type of content better for you guys moving forward? Any improvements that I can make? Ultimately, it's a passion project for me, and it's something for me to get an excuse to watch more disc golf. So that's always a win. But other than that, it's been Disc Daddy. So from diapers to drivers, and apparently occasional round coverages. Till next time.